And tonight on Live Talk, we are going to talk about garbage collection in Harare and other cities and towns throughout the country.
To join the discussion, phone us directly at this number 001-202-619-2077 and we'll call you back.
Live Talk goes out to Zimbabwe on our 919 medium wave frequency and on the 4930-5940 and 15460 kilohertz shortwave. And we broadcast from Monday through Friday at 8:30 p.m.
Our websites, if you want to visit us any moment, are www.voazimbabwe.com, www.voashona.com, and www.voindebele.com.
Over the years, when we've done cleanup, we've realized that it's not a sustainable way of managing waste in the community. So what we've done with this management waste center is to get a sustainable way in which the community can start to benefit by selling that waste and having some money which they can then sell back into the community.
Vagari vari kupinda chaizvo ende ndoda kupa kutenda kuma-resident association yatiri kushanda nawo.
Phepha ukuthi libonakala likhona yimi lo munye wami wesiyabe siwalahlile, so yitho kumele sibe lokulungisisa ukuthi sithanyele lelo liqiniso ye ngoba kula munye umuntu ovela kwenye indawo abuya zilahlela iphepha la.
Once again, thanks for joining us, and you are listening to Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Studio 7 Live Talk, we are going to talk about garbage collection.
Residents of Mavugu and Tafara suburbs today have decided to clean their streets after the Harare City Council failed dismally to deliver on this key service. The residents teamed up with Lafarge, a cement company, to conduct the cleanup exercise.
An environment that is dirty is a breeding place for disease. Harare and Chitungwiza have fallen a victim to cholera, typhoid, and other diarrheal afflictions in the past. Besides the solid waste emanating from residential areas, other refuse comes from commercial operations, wholesale and retail outlets, health services, restaurants that use skylight trays, bill posting for entertainment and church events, and cell phone recharge cards, among others, are some of the major sources of solid waste in Harare and its environs, making the once sunshine city an eyesore.
What are your views on this issue? If you wish to join the show right now, phone us directly at this number 001-202-619-2077 and we'll call you back. That number again, 001-202-619-2077. For those that are using WhatsApp, our number is 1-202-465-0318. The WhatsApp number again, 1-202-465-0318. You can also post the messages right now on Twitter and Facebook. Yay, Kunja, looking forward.
Gibbs, I think Tane, our first guest, that is both, I'm told, our first guest, of course, is Mr. Simbarashe Moyo, chairperson of the Combined Harare Residents Association. Mr. Moyo, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing great, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much.
And our second guest is the mayor of Bulawayo, that is Mr. Martin Moyo. Is also the councillor for Ward 3. Mr. Moyo, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is sounding more like a law firm, right?
Yeah, Moyo, and Moyo.
Moyo and Moyo.
Okay. So let's start with the first Moyo in Bulawayo, Mr. Martin Moyo. Tell us about the waste collection in the city of Kings and Queens. What is going on there?
Well, waste collection, we are collecting litter in the eastern suburbs on a weekly basis and in the western suburbs on a fortnightly. Recently, we have been actually talking about it. We may not have implemented it yet, but it's coming. that we establish collection points and use residents with small pickup trucks to collect, say, from the minor point to a major point where our trucks can come and collect all the litter to the landfill site. So yes, we are collecting litter. I think that's what I can say for now, that we are collecting litter.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Now let's go to Mr. Simbarashe Moyo. Mr. Moyo, many people are complaining that Harare is now in ISO. What is happening?
Well, thank you very much. Yes, certainly and definitely, there have been problems with both solid waste and even liquid waste. In terms of the issue of solid waste, we have always been telling the people, in fact, as far back as January, we had raised the alert that the city of Harare had already shown signs of failing to collect refuse on a normal, regular basis. And of course, the city of Harare tried to cover up by saying that everything was in order. But I think all is there for everyone to see that it's not going on well as according to planned schedules of collecting refuse. So we are seeing refuse, growing into mountains. Even in the CBD, I cannot even talk of high-density areas where we live. So it's something that we have to grapple with as residents. Because I think it's both ways. We've always also been saying that as residents, we also have a part that we need to play, that of making sure that we assist the local authority in even recycling the litter so that we don't end up having refuse getting into, growing into mountains, refuse that can be recycled, refuse that can create some kind of revenue to the residents. So on the other side, we also have the local authority that must play its part by making sure that it collects the refuse that we collect in bins and the skip bins and so forth.
Thank you so much. Gibbs.
Yeah, Baba Moyo khona ngapho ke kobulawayo. Singathi okuhlupha kakhulu ukuthi thatha ingceza le ilahla kuyini.
Well, the vehicles are in short supply. We do not have as many vehicles as we need. We probably need, I wouldn't have the figures now because for me this is impromptu, but I think I can safely say we need upwards of 20 vehicles in order to service the city adequately on a weekly basis. But we do not have adequate vehicles. But I think when it comes to litter, we should not just be, the debate should not just be about collecting. The debate should also be about avoiding litter in the first place. Litter can be avoided because if litter is deposited in the receptacles that we have provided, then you don't see it in the streets. You see it on the streets because it has not been put in the receptacles, and therefore it is exposed for all to see. But if we use the bins that are provided, then we manage the litter too, so that collection is really about collection. Because I don't think that the litter that we are talking about is the litter that is in the receptacles. We're talking about probably the litter that is in the street that is making the city dirty and that is spoiling the ambience and beauty of the city.
Yeah, nxa ungafaka ngesintu ke ngamafitshane ke blessing ukuthi laba abantu elithi bazabe bethwala izibi ngezimota zabo kambe babe bebhadalwa yini kuyahamba njani khonapho ngamafitshane ba?
Yebo angithi ngithathi mina ngitshona ngikhulume ngesindebele.
Yeah, khuluma ngesintu.
Mina nxa sixoxa ngendaba yezibi akasingakhulumi ngokuthanyela la ngokuvutha, kasikhulumeni la ngokulahla ukuthi izona izibi zethu vele sizilahla njani. nxa sizilahla kuhle izibi zethu sizilahlela kumabhini ayabe efakiwe, then izibi zakhona kazibonakali ngoba zisebhini. Izibi ezilidubo izibi ezisemgwaqweni, amaphepha aphephuka indawo yonke, okungama-containers lokho okokudlela okwekhela okwabo KFC okugcwele enasigcine estarateni, yilo udubo esilayo. But ku-idea yethu sasikhuluma ngokuthi singasebenza le community ukuthi sincedisane ukuthwala i-nationalism. Imoto yebo ziyashoda, azingeke zanelisa ukuthi zithwale yonke indawo, kodwa kulabantu abaloku ngama-truck okuminyane okungama-2 uyabafica bebhakile enagcine emgwaqweni kwesikhathi befuna ibhizinesi. So thina labo bantu aluba singancedisana labo bebona beconnecte izibi kube lendawo lapho kuzathelelwa izibi asithi ama-point kinasini kumathebapha, then abantu beyekhiya izibi zabo khonapho. Labana bezimoto ezincane sebethatha izibi leziyana sebezisa ku-major collection point lapho umasipala azabuya lemoto zakhe ezinkulu ebuthe inational izibi ehambela zokule mkhosi.
If I am not Civil, what the mayor was saying is that, he mentioned something to do with those pickup trucks. He says people will be paid. If you bring your truck, you'll be paid for that.
Regaiti tore mterero kutanga mkoma Jackson makadi.
Tinofara makadi zvenyu.
Aiwa tiripo imi muri kupi?
Ndiri kutaura ndiri Magunje.
Magunje. Nhasi tiri kutaura nenyaya kuti zene kuchivaka nenyama uko. Okay. Saka nhasi tiri kutaura nenyaya yemarara asiri kutakurwa mumaguta umu. Muri kuonawo sei nyaya iyi?
Izvi zvinhu zvinomurika chaizvo kana tichitarisa kuura ndekukuona kunenge kwaita nyika. Saka tinenge tichoyemura zvikuru nokuti effort yevagari vemuguta imomomo inenge iri effort inofanira kuyemurwa zvakanyanyisa. Kati pamusoro pezvo tichitarisira kuti nehurumende inenge ichifanira kuonawo nemakanzuri wayo kuti pane zviri kupindikanawo zvinenge zvichida kuti zvinge zvichigadzirisa kuti muguta mugari makachenawo.
Asika makanzuro anenge ari kumbotiwo isu vanhu ndisi tinomborasira mapepa mese mese, dzimwe nguva tikadya zvatinenge tadya mubhazi tichingokanda murodhi mese umu, pangagadziriswe sei?
Pevanhu pekunge vachikanganisa zvavo paripo, asi kana vanhu vachinge vadya vakakandirwa vakaitiwa mabhini kana zvipi, mabhini wayo kodzero dzavo ndedzekuti agozotorwa chizoenda kudhamping site zvichinobviswa. Saka kana zvisina kubviswa zvakare imomo manje vanhu vachinge vazviunganidza zvoreva kuti rinenge raadambudziko manje, zvoreva kuti panenge pasarira ndepemaservices ekanto anenge asarira ekuzopedzisira kubva kuvagari vemumaguta.
Saka iwo tichitarisa madhorobha akaita sana Karoi achiri akachena here? Zviri kufamba sei kunana Magunje uko magrowth point mese umupaipai?
Zvinhu zvakatiomei, asi apo nepapo tinenge tichingoonawo vachiedzawo kuti zvinhu zvimanikidzire, asi ruzhinji rwako zvakungoti izvozvo. Vanopotawo vachiuyawo vachipira kuti vanga vachiita maclean up campaign yavo, ndova matiri kuona kuti izvo zviri kunyanya kutibatsira kushambidzika kwemaguta nevedu vemakanzuri waya.
Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru nekupinda muchirongwa chedu.
Aiwa, tinotenda zvedu maita basa chaizvo.
Tinotenda. Of course, Jackson is essentially calling for the coming together of councils and residents to clean up all the areas that might be considered to be eyesores. So he's saying it's a combined effort and everyone should be involved.
Now back to you, Mr. Simbarasha Moyo. Are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm still on the line.
Now we heard that in Mavuku, Tafara, suburbs, what is happening is that the local people have actually teamed up with a company by the name Lafarge Cement Company. So at the end of the day, they have established what is called a waste management center. And there's this proposal that people can benefit from that kind of waste center so that they can empower themselves. So how best can they do that, the local people?
Yes, definitely. Like we are discussing here, that all of us must play a part in making sure that our areas are clean. We always make sure that our environment is kept clean. So certainly, we need to have the local authorities, we need to have the residents coming together, not only to push for cleanup campaigns, because yes, you can embark on cleanup campaigns, but you need something more to sustain the idea of keeping our cities clean. There's something more that I'm talking about is to make sure that, for instance, there is proper civic education, that people must not always dump litter everywhere. They must make sure that we must make sure that we are in control of the situation. Now, getting back to the issue of coming up with a waste management center, I would say this is a very progressive development that has been done by the people of Tafara Mabuku. In fact, I applaud them for having done such a major step, carried such a major step in making sure that they address the issue of litter in a holistic manner. I think this creates some kind of a sustainable arrangement in addressing the issue of litter. And in fact, I actually wanted to urge the other residents in other areas to get into these partnerships, come up with some arrangements where you get into partnership with some companies, where you are then able to turn the management of waste into some kind of a business where residents can actually benefit in terms of employment and generate some income for the residents. So it's something that we have to seriously think about. There are plans that we have, even as a Combined Area Residents Association, with regards to the subject of waste management. And you will see that in areas like Highfields, we have some small projects that we have started there where we are targeting the issue of waste management on a serious basis. So we are trying to play our part here to make sure that we assist the local authority, that is the service provider, who is supposed to collect refuse on a regular basis.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moyo. Please do stay on the line. Regatienda kunemwe mtereri vamakaya makadi.
Tinovapenyu makadiyo.
Aiwa isu tiri nani zvedu dambudziko marinzwa iri poitwa sei?
Nyaya yekuchengetedza nzvimbo yedu chinhu chakanaka zvikuru, asi tinokumbira zvikuru zvinokanganisa zvekuti vanhu vari kutonga vanhu vari pamatomho ezvino dai vari vanoramba vachisapotwa councils edu nezvinhu zvakafanana nemotokari dzekutakurisa nei. haikona kuti kana macity councils mahwinwa nemaopposite parties asiri mugovernment vobva varegera kutibatsira mazvino zvinozotadzisa kutakurwa zvimwe zvinhu zvakadaro kuramba ndikuti takachena ndochedzera ndofunga ndozvandofunga dai taiwana rubatsiro rwakakwana kubva vanenge vachitonga kuti zvinhu zvirambe zvichifamba, kuti nyika yedu tiwane kuramba tichigara munzvimbo yakanaka isina zvirwere zvimwe zvakadaro.
Ko imiwo kavagari muri kunziwo ndimunomborasirawo marara pese pese?
Chireta ndechekuti kuenda tinenge tiri mudzimba medu umo pane tinoisa mabhini, maplastic bhini atinawo aya tozara pachaya motikari vanozotakura tambogadzika pakunze kweyadhi zvashaya zvitora ndizvo zvinozokonzera kuti vanhu votakura maji onorasa onoipa kunze
aiwa tinotenda zvikuru vamakaya nekupinda muchirongwa chedu. Of course, Mr. Makai is saying he's noticing that he's alleging rather that there might be an attempt by government to sabotage a council that are controlled by the opposition parties. He's saying they are not being funded very well. And of course, he's saying that sometimes residents try to clean up their environs, but what happens at the end of the day is the garbage is not collected. It ends up piling and piling and piling, and then people just decide to go and dump it somewhere.
Let's throw that question to Mr. Martin Moyo. Do you feel in any way that the government may be sabotaging you by not providing some funds maybe for you to resuscitate the garbage collection kind of process?
Well, I wouldn't say so, because one, councils are supposed to be autonomous. We are supposed to look after our towns. We have sources of revenue, and it is those sources of revenue from which we are able to finance most all of our activities. And so, but it is also an open secret that government itself doesn't have the money. But I don't think I would say a sabotage, strongly and convincingly. But perhaps because we do need support. And the new constitution gives us the 5% for local authorities. And that would go a long way into ameliorating some of the problems that councils do have. And also, of course, we have had other income streams removed from council, like we had the vehicle licenses that we no longer collect. Well, those could be probably grounds for making that observation that perhaps you are being sabotaged. But I really don't see it like that. I think it's the general state of the economy as a whole.
Regai tiende kuna va moyo tidzokere kuna va moyo va simbarashe moyo muripo eparunare.
Yes, ndichiripo.
Tiri kuona zvaitwa nevagari vekumabvuku zvekuti vari kushanda neimwe kambani kuti vange vachibatsirana. Imi sevagari muri kumboenda here kune mamwe makambani kuti mutaurewo nyaya iyoyo kuti kanzuro zvinenge zviri kuiremera, toita sei, tobatsirana sei?
Ichokwadi ndovunga ndambotaura paya ndikati muHarare isusu seCombined Harare Residents Association tine urongwa hwatiri nawo pari zvino hwokuti tiri kutotarisirawo kutobatana nemamwe masangano ekunze kwenyika anotibatsira kuita project inonzi waste management. Hatisati zvedu tange tainda kumakambani emuno kuti vatibatsirewo futi takananga nenyaya yewaste management, asi inyaya yatiri kutora nemoyo wese senyaya inofanira kugadziriswa kuti maguta edu ange akachena sekuchena kwaanga akaita kubva kare. Saka ndingangoti munguva shoma inotevera tichange tichitoonawo pundutso munyaya idzodzo dzekugadziswa kwemarara, kuti marara asangowanikwa ari pese pese, nokuziviswa kwevagari kuti aiwa kana kanzuro risina kuuya kuzotakura marara hazvirevi kuti inongomaunganidza pese pese. Marara aya itori mari, marara aya anounza ndingati basa rinounzawo mari kuvanhu, zvinova zvinozovandudza magariro atinoita sevagari mumaguta. Asi handisi kuti tinoregerera guta nekusatakura kwanoita marara. Aiwa, itori mhosva iyoyo kuti vanowanikwa vasingatakuri marara pavanenge vataura kuti vari kutakura. Vanofanira kuwanikwa vanosungirwa nemutemo wavo, nemutemo uripo kuti vatakure marara pega pega pavanenge vataura kuti vanomatakura.
Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru. Regai tiende kuvamwe vateereri. Tina amai va makadii?
Tiri makadii.
Ndima yani muteya? Okay, makadii?
Tiri makadii.
Dambudziko ratiri kutaura marinzwa ndere kusatakurwa kwemarara. Zviri kufambawo sei munharaunda mamuri?
Komana dambudziko racho ranyanya, marara hawana hachatomboitiba magariro acho, marara aita mirwi zvokuti tsvina yacho yakutonetsa.
Saka imi muri kupi?
Tinogara kuWestern.
Okay, saka vanouya kangani kuzombotakura marara acho? Munovaona kana kuti havatouyi?
Vatombouyi, vanhu vari kutongoraswa vachingoitwa hipi, marara ari kutongoungana zvisingatomboiti.
Ko imiwo sevagari tiri kuona vekumabvuku tafara vanenge vabatana vakatsvaga kambani vakabvisa marara acho muri kuitawo sei? Munombogarawo pasi here sevagari venzvimbo kuti aiwa marara aya akawandisa panogona kuita zvirwere, ngatiitei mubatira pamwe chuma cho muzukuru?
Tiri kutoonawo zviri kutoita vamwe, tiri kutofunga kuti tichatombogarawo pasi titomborongawo toita sei.
Izano rakanaka ka?
Izano rakanaka zvishuwa, takatorasikirwa kuti tingatombozivi kuti toita sei.
Aiwa, tinokutendai zvikuru nekupinda muchirongwa chedu.
All right.
Okay, of course. My MTA says the news from Mavugu Tafara is encouraging, and they will try to do that in their own community to embark on a clean-up campaign. Gibbs.
Yes, wewe njalo kula ngapo wobulawe ngolimi lukamama khonapo baba Moyo. Nxa sikhuluma ngolokho ukuthi izibi zingasetshenziswa njani ukuthi abantu babe lakho ukusasala ezikhwameni, kambe lingamakhansili linje liyakhulumisana ngakho yini kumbe isivuka mpunzana nje ukuthi lo munye wenze okwakhe?
Isivuka mpunzana omunye lo munye wenze okwakhe, kanti sokuya ngokuthi wena okubonileyo abanye abathi ingekeza, wena ubone ngathi ungakwenza, ungakusebenzisa ngaluphi uhlobo wenzeni okungathandwa ngabantu ubathengisele. But ngibona ngathi okunye okungekho engibona ngathi kuqhakathekile mina ukuthi sengibe labantu abaningi abazakini bethi bona i-recycling yesinyenza lokhu, singaphekhisa i-biogas yesinyenza lokhu lalokhu. Ngicine ngisithi mina hayi, mina konke lokhu ngiyakwazi, awungeke wabuya uze ngitshela ngakho lokho ngoba vele ngiyakwazi ukuthi kule recycling ezizinto amaplastiki nga-recycla liphumela amanye amaplastiki benze lokhu lalokho. Into engekho yi-investment. Abantu bayakhuluma nge-recycling kodwa bengela business kungathini i-business idea yakhona isemoyeni nje ukuthi ma umuntu ebuya kathi yena ngifuna engozimini lapha esilaphela khona izinto bezana ngifuna ukusebenza njenge-raw material yenational yefactory yami, ngifuna ukuphosisa lokho ehambe efaka i-national plant ekhathe abantu. Yikho ukuthi ama-industries esithuthuka. But abantu babhize national ngozimini, bayadobha lokhu lalokhu, ababoni ngathi kungasebenza. Abanye badobha amawaya benze inathi nama-toys abantwana ukuthi bedlalise, abanye badobha njalo amaplastiki angikwazi ukuthi benza okay ngengaya inside then babe sebenzise ama-pole awe-plastic bakhipha benyebilisa ama-plastic lana bebesefaka kumoldi kuphume kusokungama-pole abenza ngawo babemake ama-pathways enathene ezilsayideni. So abantu bayadobha inatheni, but ngibona ngathi kufanele sicabange okungcono kulalokho ukuthi sibili kube yi-national industry lapho abantu abangencedekala khona.
Ubambe khonapho Moyo, sicela ungayikhatshana, siyakwazi sibe nguthembisa ukuthi uzahlala njengesikhatshana sesingathatha-ke ikhefu encane uzaphenduka njalo lawo baba Willard Moyo khona ngapha esilobela ubambe, siyabuya kuwe khonapho.
Of course, Mr. Simbarashe Moyo and Mr. Martin Moyo, please do stay on the line. And for our radio listeners, we are streaming live, so go to www.voazimbabwe.com and press on Live Talk. And of course, this program will also be on our Facebook page. This is Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Gibbs Dube saying stay tuned.
For those of you who are just joining us, good evening, and this is Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about garbage collection residents throughout the country are complaining that councils are failing to deliver. Gibbs.
And of course, our guests tonight are Mr. Martin Moyo, who is the Bulawayo Mayor and Ward 3 Councillor. And we also have Mr. Simbarashe Moyo of the Combined Harare Residents Association. Yes, ngakathathi ikhefu laphana ke blessing bengisakhuluma ke lo mnumzana uMartin K Moyo. Baba Moyo ubusaqhubeka khona ngokwathi ukhuluma ngakho ukuthi abantu bungani bazuzani xa bangahamba eMara kumbe endaweni ezinjalo.
Well, ngisithi mina inasineni ilitha iziki lezi abanye abantu bathola amathuba emali ukuthi bengenza imali ngokuthi abanye badobha ezinye izinto ezingasetshenziswa futhi bezithengise okungama-plastic containers lokho okwabomazowe ungahamba lapha enasinele ekhaya inokuthi rand abantu bethenga ngakho amangathini bephathele yikho amanzi benza izinto ezinjalo abanye badobha amawaya belungisina sini ama-toys bethengise ngase ngikhuluma laba ama-plastic awempuphu lawa lamanye ama-plastic anjalo abawachipsayo bewafake kunational ku-mold bebumbe ama-pole ngathi mina i-Rotary Club bene-project yokurefurbisha i-hillside dam ngokufaka ama-parks and walkways ukwenzela ukuthi abantu nxa bechitha inathini isikhathi bese i-hillside dam khona ngalo bebe-guided ukuthi behambe ngaphi ama-pole akhona babewathenge engozi mine enziwe nje ngabantu but mina lokho kuncinyane basenzeni into enkulu kube le-investor othi mina ngifuna ukufaka iplanti engozi mali ngiproduce i-biogas abantu beyisebenzise ukupheka ezindlini zabo ngifuna ukufaka iplanti ezakwenza amagabha amasha ngamakhembe ngalawa esinatha nawamadrinki esinethegele idelopolent na kungaba njalo akutsho ukuthi ilitha sokube muntu oyifunayo ayisoze ibe khona sezibone nasine therapy ngoba abantu babe befuna ukuthi beyoyithengisela lowo manufacturer but wakati sokwenza ubona amaphepha lamakhela kugcwele therapy ukuthi akula muntu owafunayo kudala abantu babe manasine namambodlela besiya wathengisa babe sebha amathambo besiya wathengisa but kathesi kakukho khonokho ngenye indlela yokumanage inathini ilitha if there could be amanasini ama-plants recycler inathini these materials they produce ama-products amasha kuyacreate lani lemsebenzi ngoba olunye udiko esikhala ngalo kakhulu ukuthi kakula msebenzi webizweni
siyawuzwa kakhulu baba Moyo bambe khonapho-ke siyaphenduka kuwe-ke ngesiphangi so what Mr. Moyo is saying is that generally there is lack of investment in this garbage management kind of business. So he says if ever, people have ideas, most of those ideas are sort of like pies in the sky, So he says you'll actually appreciate the situation where somebody can come to Bulawayo, open a very big factory, near one of the West garbage management sites, and then perhaps produce as many items as possible, including biogas, for people to use in their households. And then he says they can also convert some of the cans into some usable products. Then he says there's one example where, there's an organization, the Rotary Club. He says it once used some poles made from plastics, at a certain recreational center where people just visit there and do other things. So he says there's need to invest in that sector.
Mr. Simbarashe Moyo, are you still on the line?
I-Rotary Club ama-poles lawo ayenziwa ngabantu besenza ngamagabha ngama-mold amagabha from gold mine angithi but imagine ukuthi abantu bakube kule company ezwayo isenza ama-national ama-poles employing people ama-poles lana because kadliwa ngumutho abantu bebengawathenga besenza amanasi namathimari. It could be a very, very big business.
Certainly, yes. So he wanted to add some more, flesh to what he was saying. He says, these poles that the Rotary Club was using was only produced by general people, People just make their own things, and then he says they are very durable. You can use them, but they don't decay. They last for a long, long time.
And Mr. Simbarashe Moyo, some people are also saying the other problem is that because of the economic problems, the majority of Zimbabweans have now been reduced to vending on the streets, and they are saying this might also be a problem. Of course, we want to make it clear that we are not saying vendors are responsible or blaming them, because I think everyone knows that the economy is not performing that well. But how has that issue of vending contributed to the piling up of garbage?
Well, thank you once again. I think the issue of the economy plunging is something that we have to brace up, or something that we have to live with, because from the look of things, our economy is on a free fall. It's only a nosedive. It is likely to continue on this level up until I think some time later. So yes, we now have the issue of the sector of vendors coming into the CBD to make sure that they make ends meet. But yes, in the process, we find that the issue of littering also comes in, whereby we are saying residents are also, vendors are also assisting in increasing the quantity of litter that we end up having, especially in the CBD and other places where they are selling their wares. But surely, like what I have been saying, let it start from the point where we are saying, let's have a campaign where residents, vendors are educated on managing litter. Once that is done, that even if we have a million vendors in the CBD, even if we have more than a million vendors selling their wares, they are doing that with the full knowledge that they have to make sure that where they are selling their litter, that place has to be kept clean. So it also has to come from that understanding where there is some kind of civic education that can be done or that can be facilitated by the local authorities. These local authorities can facilitate that, or they can get into partnership with the companies to make sure that at the end of the day, residents are educated on how to manage litter. So that we don't end up saying that is the vendors who are littering the CBD, is the vendors who are causing this problem. The problem is much bigger than what we are saying here. The problem is the economy. The economy is not performing. The economy is likely to continue on this note for quite some time to come. So obviously, we have to brace up for such issues that we are talking about here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Simbarashe Moyo. For those of you who are just joining us, good evening, and this is Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about the problem of garbage. Gibbs.
Now, Mr. Moyo, Martin Moyo, can we talk about, vendors and the kind of situation that we are facing perhaps in Bulawayo? There are many people accusing vendors of littering, but that's their way of life, isn't it?
Well, yes, vending has become a source of livelihood. And one cannot begrudge people that are trying to earn livelihood by vending. However, of course, where there is vending, people are sitting in the open, selling, particularly where they are selling, let's say, everything like sweets and DBs and such things. Litter is likely to be generated. But I think it's also about our management of vendors. If, let's say, you set vendors on a particular space, like Gudo Penula Mall, they are sitting in their base, you will find that they will keep their surroundings clean. Each time they come in the morning, the first thing that they do before they spread their wares for sale is to clean the place up. And so they will clean the place up. The local authorities' responsibility then becomes the provision of litter bins where they can put that litter. But of course, the problem is much bigger than that. Those that are sitting, they are manageable because they have a particular designated place where they come to every morning or every day. The problematic ones would be probably those that the roaming ones, the vendors who roam the streets, and those are usually illegal vendors as well. We have no control over those. We have a because they are moving one time to another time, another time, and so on. They are always moving around, and probably when the littering happens, it may be them. But I think what we need, there is nothing wrong with vending. It's not just the vendor, the buyer also from the vendor, because the buyer is probably the one that is going to open what they have bought in a wrapper from the vendor and litter it. So I think we need to concentrate each other, educate each other, so that we are able to dispose of any litter in the receptacles provided. Then there would be more littering.
Todzoka kwamuri vamoyo mumisangano yamuri kuitawo nekanzuru iri kuti kudii nemamiriro akaita zvinhu muguta?
Tiri kuita misangano nevekanzuro, tinogara tichiita misangano kakawanda. Ivowo vari kuchema-chemawo kuti vagari vari kuvaregerera. Isusuwo vagari tinenge tichichema-chema tichiti ivo havasi kuita basa ravo. Ndofunga nyaya iripo inyaya yekuti hatisi kuita muvonera pamwe chuma chemuzukuru sezvamambotaura paya kuti tese ivo nesu tinofanira kuwirirana kuti dambudziko iri nderedu tese, ende dambudziko tikagadzirisa dambudziko iri rinoita kuti kana ragadziriswa tese tinenge tichiwanikwa tichifara. Ndofunga mukatarisa zvakaita muHarare muya, munowana kuti pazuva pega-pega pane vanhu vanoita zvekuadvertisa vaya vanenge vakamira pamarobhoti pega-pega vachipa vanhu maflyers. Ndevamwewo vari kutobetserawo kuti guta risvibe vavo. Saka isi tichiti patinenge tichigara nevakuru veguta tikuti aiwa, ndofunga pane mitemo inonzi mabylaws iya inokwanisa kushandiswa neveguta kuti vaishandise tidzivirire kuraswa kuri kuita marara muguta by invoking such bylaws. Saka inyaya dzatiri kungokurukura tichiedza kubatsirana kuti tione kuti aiwa, kunze kwokuita maclean up campaigns, nokuti maclean up campaigns acharamba achingoitwa, asi vanhu vacharamba zve vachingorasa marara, nokuti pamunopedza kuita clean up campaign nhasi munoti munganidza marara momarasa, asi mangwana kana muchingobva kupedza ipapo vanhu vabva vatotanga kutorasa. Saka zvinenge zvichingobvekera futi panyaya yanambotaura yekuti ngapachiitwa dzidzisano yokubetserana kuti iye neni ngatibatsiranei kuti guta redu kana zvireva kuita even anonzi pachirungu maworkshops aya titobva kuita maworkshop nevagari kuti munhu wega-wega anzwe kunyara paanenge ari mota make kuti akande marara panze pemota, kuti paanenge apedza kudya bhanana rake paya obva angokanda marara panze. Ivowo vanoisa mabhini mutauni tiri kumaona, asi mabhini aya ngavaedze nepavanogona napo kuti agare ari okuti munhu anokwanisa kusvika achisarara, kwete kuti awana bhini reya rakatozara nechekare opedzisira akanda marara pasi. Saka ndofunga nyaya iyi inyaya hombe yekuti zveshuwa kana tisina kuisa musoro pamwe hapana kwatinosvika, hapana chatinenge tagasa. Ticharamba tichingotaura tichingoritora sedambudziko, asi kune dzimwe nyika vanhu vari kuita mari nenyaya dzemarara, kune dzimwe nyika vanhu vatowana mabasa nenyaya dzemarara, kune dzimwe nyika haisiri nyaya yavachiri kutaura nhasi uno kuti tiri kunetsewa nedambudziko remarara.
Tinotenda zvikuru. Of course you heard Mr. Simbarashe Moyo there saying that in some countries they are taking advantage of the West, to actually create employment and benefit out of it, but sadly not for Zimbabwe at this juncture. Gibbs.
So some experts are actually recommending a lot of things that can be done, in terms of waste reduction methods. Now, one of them is recycling. I think recycling is one of those things that people know best. And there could be some kind of donations that people can make. Like, let's say you've got something to throw away. Instead of throwing that thing away, you can donate it to charity. And then there is what is called composting. Whenever there's material that rots, you can put it together, make it to be part of humus. Then you actually use it in your garden.
Yes.
Then there are some material exchanges that we can do. Like, let's say a company X is producing animal feed, for example. So it might use, let's say, stale baked kind of goods from a bakery as some kind of feed supplement. Then reusing material, this kind of idea where people may not use a lot of plastic cups, instead using mugs, that works a lot. So sibeke baba moyo khona ngapho lapho khona. So ke ngiyakumbula kudala sakhula thina kwakula mabhimu khona ngapho ke koBulawayo ayi yellow kwakubhalwe ukuthi a clean city begins here, place your litter in a bin. Kambe lokhu sakhona khonokho?
Kukhona siyazama ukuthi sifake amanasi namabhini kumakhona wonke awezidala phakathi nje lapho ongathi umango mude. Ngingathi mina asithi usuka konathini ko-Mickle ucrossa uLeopold Kawira kule bhini economy le kuthiwa isisebenzi ngudek kuze kuba le bhini phakathi kuze kuba le bhini kukhona lika-8 others the-same ngapha kunasini lapho ku-Jackson Moyo the opposite side kuyabe kule bhini engakula mabhini amathathu. Of course siyazi ukuthi kulezi ezinye zingathi zi-out amabhini ayabe engekho ngale ngenxa yokuthi kasilawo ukuthi siwafake khona ngale, but aluba kuthiwa ama-resources ayavuma besizafaka ama-national amabhini nakhona ngale kumbe sizawafaka eventually this time. So amabhini aqakathekile.
Yes, siyakuzwa kakhulu baba moyo ungayikhatshana. So he's saying that, the city of Bulawayo used to have that slogan, a clean city begins with you.
Yeah.
And it was almost taboo to throw away litter in Bulawayo, He says they're trying to revive that, and they've got garbage bins here and there, which they're trying to use to revive that kind of slogan.
We today my message by WhatsApp with some messages on WhatsApp. Carrington writes they should let private companies take over the job, and then Brighton anoti dai izvi zveutsanana zvikaitwa mumaguta ose ari munyika yedu kuda zvingaderedze kupararira kwezvirwere. So he's saying that he's welcoming what Lafarge, the residents of Tafara Mavuku, and also the council that provided trucks did, and he's saying that this should be emulated. Gibbs.
We've got a message from Foster Mbangwa who says, service providers are not serious about collecting garbage in most cities and urban areas. So he says at the end of the day, it's all up to the councils to do the job, Yeah, so I've got one message there. So maybe going back to Mr. Simbarashe Moyo. Mr. Simbarashe Moyo, are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm still on the line.
So what's the best plan? What's the best plan in urban areas for people to actually ensure that they don't throw garbage here and there, How best can they do that kind of thing?
Yes, obviously we need to find the best way forward to make sure that we make sure that our urban areas are clean, the environment that we live in is clean, but to get there are a number of steps that we need to follow. For instance, the first step must be this issue of civic education to make sure that people don't throw litter everywhere unnecessarily. And then once you do that, once you go past that phase, you get to the point where you say we need to enforce some of our bylaws to make sure that those who are seen littering our urban areas, the places where we live in, are punished. They have to be punished by the bylaws that we have. Why should we have bylaws that we are not using? Surely that is where some of the problems are coming from. So it's a question of, first of all, engaging the residents, making sure that they get the information that surely they must take care of the litter. And then the next stage is also making sure that you enforce the bylaws against the issue of littering, and also making sure that each and every one of us is playing his or her part. I'm talking here also of the city of Harare, or for instance, the city of Harare, collecting refuse regularly or on a regular basis. So the kind of things that have to be done besides the issue of clean-up campaigns that we are always carrying out in local authorities. And lastly, let me also mention the fact that we also need to be forming these partnerships, like the one that has been formed in Davara Mabuku, where they have engaged Lafarge, which is a big cement manufacturing company, and also the city of Harare, to make sure that the residents, the private player, and the local authority come together in getting rid of litter in the area. And it also creates some kind of a sense of responsibility on the resident or on the residents. Say, this is our project. This is what we are doing to make sure that the place we live in remains clean or is kept clean.
And let's go back to Mayor Martin Moyo. And what the council officials that I'm talking to mostly are saying is that residents are not paying their bills. How big of a deal is this in Blawe?
Well, it is quite a big thing. But then the residents also have a situation, and the situation is basically an economy that is not performing, and so they have no sources of income. But that is really a big problem. And we can only perhaps begin to survive once the economy turns around. Because people must work in order to pay for services. If they are not working, they are not getting paid, then you cannot expect them to be able to afford the services. So, but some of the services are essential. There are services that you cannot do without. For instance, the water must be provided. But yet there is a cost to it. For it to come to your house, it will cost money to bring it to you. So it's quite a problem. Yes, we have an economy that has collapsed, and unless we can pick this economy up, then our improve the livelihood of the people, then we will continue to have this as a problem.
And residents might be having problems paying Mayor Moyo, but government institutions are the biggest culprits. Is that the same issue in Blawe?
Well, that is, you know, when it comes to government, we all want to really raise our voices. But we have the domestic debt that is household cumulatively together after the write-off in 2013, right? Everybody in 2013 was at zero, right? That debt has gone from zero to over 40 million, right? And remember that what we wrote off, I think, was just about 49 million. And that 49 million has been accumulated in the period from 2009 to 2013, which is a period of about 4 years. And in less than 2 years, the debt is almost where it was. And so, yes, the government departments also are struggling to pay. But with government departments, we also owe government money in terms of the statutory obligations that we must remit to government. And we have made arrangements to offset our debt to government against their debt to us, against what they owe us. And so, and if you look at that, it's probably about 6 or less than 10 million. The industry and commerce are the other major culprits. They are perhaps in the region of around 60 million that they owe the city council. So, yes, the government should lead by example. They must pay their debt. We, as local authorities, are also not able to pay our debt because we do not receive the money that is due to us. But let's put the blame where it is, or let's point correctly at the problem. The biggest debtors are industry, followed by the domestic debtors, and the smallest, at least according to our book, the smallest debtor is the government department.
Interesting. Gibbs.
Very interesting. So let's come back to Mr. Simbarashe Moyo. So as the mayor is saying, it appears as if the residents of different local authorities owe these councils millions of dollars. So maybe the waste management crisis can be, pointing towards that direction. What do you think?
Well, it's rather unfortunate that we end up saying that residents are not playing their part. I think we'll be starting from the wrong point in this whole debacle. The reason, for instance, why residents are actually finding it difficult to pay is because of the general economic situation that we are talking about. But from the look of things and from our surveys, we've actually realized that the residents are actually are performing better in terms of the other debtors. For instance, the Mayor Moyo talked of the industry, Mayor Moyo talked of government. These are the biggest debtors who are having this culture of impunity, this culture of entitlement. They just want to get the services for free. But at the end of the day, it's the residents who are being blamed to say residents are not paying this and that and so forth. I surely would want to disagree with that. I mean, using even the strongest term to say that I think it is rather very unfortunate that people end up just bundling and bungling matters and conclude it that way. Residents have been playing their part. You would hear from, you would see actually what is happening. Local authorities are actually even failing to pay their workers. And when we are talking of these workers, we're also talking of these workers again as residents. So when the local authority is failing to pay the workers, how do you expect these workers to pay their rents? When the economy is not performing, when people are being laid off from work and ending up vending in the streets and getting $3 per day, how do you expect the same person to settle a bill of $50 a month? But all the same, like I'm saying, we see these people trying by all means necessary to get into debt settlement arrangements, paying the little that they can afford. Surely, if the economy was performing well, we wouldn't be talking about this. No one would be talking about the issue of residents not playing their part. We all know that we can't get services for free from local authorities. For local authorities to function, surely residents must pay. They must contribute through the payment of rents, through the payment of their water bills and all these other bills that they are supposed to pay. So it's actually rather, like I said earlier on, unfortunate that people end up just concluding it, brushing everything to say it's the residents. At the end of the day, it's not the residents alone. It's this whole situation that we are in. We are in some kind of vortex where we are trying to, keep our heads above the water, and yet, we are being kept down. Our heads are being pushed below the water. So surely, no one must complain with that kind of situation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Simbarashe Moyo. Of course, there is plenty of blame to go around, as they say. Success, as they say, failure is an orphan. And success, obviously, if we're doing well, everyone will want to be associated with that. But we hope a solution will be found. Of course, that ends our program. We want to thank our guests this evening, Mr. Martin Moyo, Bulawayo Mayor, Mr. Simbarashe Moyo, Chairman of the Combined Harare Residents Association. Of course, we want to thank our listeners, our viewers, those who sent us messages, our team behind the scenes, our engineers and producers. Signing off, this is yours truly, Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Gibbs Dube saying good night, Zimbabwe.